Hey guys, welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. My name is Brian,
And my name is Maggie.
and we interview Asian entrepreneurs around the world to amplify their voices and empower Asians to pursue their dreams and goals.
We believe that each person has a message and a unique story from their entrepreneurial journey that they can share with all of us. Hi everyone, welcome to the Asian Hustle Network podcast. My name is Maggie.
My name is Brian.
And today we have a very, very special guest on today's episode. His name is Ircahn Gunawan of IRVINS Salted Egg, and he is the co-founder and COO of IRVINS, which is a dangerously addictive salted egg snack made in Singapore. Ircahn, welcome to the show.
Hey, you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you.
Yeah. We would love to know, like what your upbringing was like and what it was like growing up with your brothers in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I gotta pull back a little bit more than Singapore. So my brothers and I, so it's three brothers. The first one is Ivan. Second one is Irvin, hence the name of the name, which we'll get to later. And I'm the youngest of the three brothers. So my family and I, we were born and raised in Jakarta, Indonesia. I was raised there from when I was born until I was about 9 years old. Yeah. So, growing up, we have this really strong culture in our family of being very family bonded, and especially having a very big family, either from my dad's side or my mom's side. So in those years, what I really loved growing up back then was just this whole bonding in our family and a big family. My grandmother, she used to be the one who is like shepherding all of us, like every single week, the grandkids, you must stay over at my home, and and we would like play together and all that. So it's a really, I really enjoyed that, and I think it really formed my mentality in life as well. But we had to migrate over from Indonesia to Singapore, and that was during, if you remember, the 1998 Asian financial crisis. So it was that year with all the turmoil and everything. So we had to move over, like literally in those early days and period of the crisis. So then I grew up in we grew up in Singapore from when I was 9 years old until I was 17. And that's also a very, it's a huge change, especially for me being 9 years old. Honestly, back then I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know what's an Asian financial crisis, but my parents were just like, Ircahn, we have to migrate and board a plane. I'm like, okay, but I just entered school 1 week ago. I have my shirt and pants, my books were all bought. No, we have to go. Actually, I was like, what is going on? And I was crying. I remember I was like crying, and I'm like, my friends, I don't want to go over. But I think thanks to my parents, like they really held on and bonded and really let our family and three boys. I don't know about you guys, but I think a family of three boys is quite a rowdy and difficult to handle, I suppose. And yeah, my mom and dad, I really appreciate them because,
Mm-hmm.
my mom was like basically a solo fighter, really just supporting and nurturing our family in a new country.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, for over many, many years, he basically had to fly back and forth because his work, he still works in Singapore, in Indonesia,
Mm-hmm.
but the company also has a branch in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result, basically, in those years, I remember that he basically works Monday to Friday in Jakarta,
Mm-hmm.
flies into Singapore on Friday night. We would pick him up at the Changi airport.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would spend the weekend together.
Wow.
Sometimes he might have meetings and all that, but
Mhm.
we would like eat together, go out together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday night, he has to fly back to Jakarta.
Wow.
And he had to do that every single week for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that also really shaped who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm like sweating. It's so hot in Singapore.
It's okay.
No
Yeah,
problem.
it's quite hot today in Los Angeles too. Actually,
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, it's morning right now, and I'm like sweating really hard.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we appreciate you taking your time out to do this podcast. You obviously you have a large fan base in the United States, and we want to learn more about you too because you're such an interesting person. Like we all know your product, and we like the newer generation of entrepreneurs too, not just in America but internationally too, because you're willing to put yourself out there and become the brand itself. And we love that, because we need to see more Asian entrepreneurs walk down that path. And it's really awesome to hear that your bond with your brothers goes all the way back since you were a child, and that time that you spent together, like, help you guys work so cohesively together right now. I wish that, honestly, I had that kind of bond with my siblings, because I tell my brother to start a company all the time. He's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, I think it's super rare to see, all the brothers get together to start a business. I think that's something, one person should really cherish, because you rarely see that. And I think that a big part of that is because you guys all saw how your father had worked and flew back and forth from Jakarta to Singapore every single weekend. And those values and those habits and that mentality really trickle down to you and your brothers' mentalities. And I think that's why you guys are so close.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Did your dad help you install some of the values to become an entrepreneur? Or is this something that came by accident, or you guys talked about it before? How this all happened?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So after that period in Singapore, my Ivan and Irvin, they went over to Australia to study college. Myself, after I graduated from I guess what you would call a high school, so I had the opportunity, like you mentioned just now, to study at USC. And I live in LA for 5 years, worked for 1 year, studied for 4 years. So that's why having IRVINS and being able to bring back IRVINS to USA is such a dream come true to me. I've been back home to Asia for 7 years now, and I've only been back to the States twice for holidays.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I really it's a dream come true for me, and I hope that after all this period is over, I really want to fly back over to the States, to really connect with our customers and connect with you guys as well. So the thing about entrepreneurship and our story, right? It really, interesting enough, I think the one true entrepreneur among the three of us is really Irvin. So when he's done with his college in Australia,
Mhm.
He's a true-blooded entrepreneur. He's got a lot of ideas. So he loves food. So one of the first things he wanted to do was, hey, I want to make a chocolate business. So I don't know whether that's an excuse or not, but he flew to Europe and Japan
Mhm.
on a food tour to study chocolate and things like that.
Wow.
And that's why until today, our company name, our brand is Irvin Salted Egg, but our company name is actually Cocoba Private Limited, COCOBA. So Cocoba is basically chocolate bar. So that's so that's why our company is named that way, But when he came back after research, he realized, oh, you know what, chocolate business is really tough. So he pivoted and he started, going back again to his love for food. So he tried a fast Indonesian food restaurant in the CBD area. One of his gimmicks is like, how Indonesians, we love to eat with our hands. So he was like, if you eat with your hands, I'll give you a discount. Something like that. It's one of his gimmicks, but he's like, this interesting. He's got his unique ways of running his business. He really enjoys it. But after that, that restaurant was really hard to pull off, and then he had the opportunity to open Irvin's Live Seafood Restaurant at a cross junction of quite a good place in the city called River Valley Road. So his specialty was salted egg crab at only $18.90 Singapore dollars. So that's really, really affordable compared to other seafood restaurants. And he was really well known for it. His marketing was Irvin's Live Seafood, the most handsome restaurant in Singapore.
I love it.
So yeah, that really I always knew from then, because he loves design, he loves marketing. I think that's why our customers would see our our branding, our snacks and packaging, and just the amount of love that we put into this our snacks, right? You would see I don't have it with me right now, but if you notice the bottom of our pouch, it also has a design. It's got our dangerous stripes at the bottom, and that philosophy to him and me, because we just love design so much, it really came to Apple's mindset of like, the back of our Mac is nicer than the front of our competitors. So, something like that. So we just love design, and that's why we make our snacks what it is today. But anyways, going back to the question. So yeah, it was from there that F&B business also in Singapore is really, really tough. So after River Valley, he had to move location to a much harder location that had a much smaller crowd. But because of that, he really had to push himself and his team to innovate whatever it takes, to survive as a restaurant. So he had to do like catering, he had to do like food package for students and all that. And one of the innovation that finally pulled off was salted egg. So from our salted egg crab, he diversified and experimented to many salted egg dishes. Yeah, and as a result from that, from our observation, he saw the salted egg potato chips, salted egg fish skin were really popular, and that's why we are who we are today. We pivoted from a seafood restaurant into a sex company. So where I came in was 5 years ago. After I graduated 7 years ago, I came back home to Indonesia. I did my own photography company because my background was I studied business and film. So I did that, and then I wanted to try out how to build a tech company. So I built a minimum viable product of a tech platform in Indonesia. I built the supply, I built the demand for a few months, and that gave me some experience as well. And then Irvin began to call for help because hey, I need help, to move from a restaurant into manufacturing.
Right.
So yeah, so my wife and I, we just jumped in. It's always in my head that family has to come first, not the individual dream or ambition you have. So I'm like, you know what? Irvin works like crazy. He works from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. every single day of his life, running his restaurant. So I'm like, you know what? I'm all in. Let me help. My wife also jumps in. Her background was like fashion design in LA, but then she jumped in to lead our HR, built the factories with me. So that's interesting. And then finally, Ivan, my eldest brother, his background, actually, he was doing banking for many years. But a couple years back, we just, hey Ivan, we really need your help as well to lead our finances and all that. So he also jumped in, and my father's role in our company is really to guide us with his wisdom, with his people mentality, how his ideals and values in building a company, all that. Yeah, and so we listen to a lot to him. And for the three brothers, I think you mentioned like, what is it like working together? I think it's tough. It's not all rosy, of course. It's not like we all are always in agreement. I think even brothers. I mean, brothers play video games, when growing up, right? So we're like always competitive. We're like playing against each other.
Yeah.
So we will always have disagreements and whatnot, but it's always important, to remember our family values, firstly, and secondly, to always remember our roles, right? So Irvin is the CEO, so he sets the business direction. Ivan is the CFO, so he has to lead our finance, and I'm the COO, so I have to be responsible for A to Z in operations of our company, right? So with that mindset, we always remember, what? Let's debate, let's quarrel, but let's focus on building this company together.
That's an amazing story. So inspirational too. It's so many good points too, because you guys essentially aren't afraid to take risks, and that's the main, in our opinion, that's the main key to success. You have to keep on innovating, and sometimes you think you're in a bad spot, it might be the best thing that ever happened to you, because now you're forced to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And the fact that I love the marketing stuff that you guys brought up. It's so different. It's so confident. And I think it really plays to like how Asians feel about ourselves right now. Like, we're very confident of who we are. We're owning up to our heritage right now. And I think with the marketing message, like, the most handsome restaurant, I think it really plays into that message that we feel like, hey, it's our turn now. We can be just as influential and just as powerful. I really like that a lot too. And, I really like the family values that you guys have. You guys found a role for everyone. And as you mentioned before, this is what I love about talking to you and versus like talking to US entrepreneurs. Because the US entrepreneurs would be like, yeah, like I find people that fit around me, and it's not so much about family, you know. For one statement that you said during this podcast is, you know, family comes first. It comes before the individual. That's powerful.
That is,
you know,
yeah.
we don't hear it out a lot over here. In fact, we barely hear it all over here. You know, and that makes one heck of a difference too. And I really want to point out that, you know, as anyone starting out their career, as you're working different jobs, starting different things, it all ties into when you start your company or when you work in a company. All these different experiences that you had in life somehow ties together. It all comes together in some way, in some form. It doesn't matter what role or what title that was. You're going to reach out to those experiences that you had as you're leading people, as you're creating a company in order to direct them correctly.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I felt very inspired by that story. Like Brian said, we rarely hear of people in the US say like, family comes first. That's why I appreciate, you know, what you just said about, you know, family comes first. And that just goes to show that, you know, your brothers were willing to drop, you know, what they had because they believed in the vision and they believed in the company, you know, and to kind of give up everything to, you know, put in 100% into IRVINS just shows so much about, you know, family values and, you know, your father being on board with it. It goes to show that there's a lot of family values involved in there. And, you know, the marketing strategies, I love the eat with the hands thing. You know, those are just so like such simple gimmicks that actually works, right? Because people start talking about it and they're like, hey, like, did you hear about that restaurant that like you have to eat with your hands? And, you know, that's sort of stuff. It just works. And I love that.
Yeah, definitely. We want to like jump into like after you guys assign the roles into your brothers, how do you guys scale that team? You know, obviously your team has grown tremendously. We talked about this before too, how you use the power of LinkedIn to find more qualified people. Like, what was the hiring process like to build the culture that you wanted, you know? Because I know that you guys set the culture among brothers, but when you bring in other people, what was the process like?
Yeah. Like, honestly, it's definitely a process, you know, that I particularly really enjoy building this company for the past 5 years, and I really saw it flowing through in those phases. You know, like the first 2 years, I would say, is really our super startup years when it was just Irvin, and then me and my wife jumped in, and with just I think it was like 2 employees or something, you know. And the startup years is all about, you know, hey, we're trying to meet demand, you know, because we're like none of us has a background of manufacturing, has a background in building a snack company. So everyone has to just like learn on the job and just like do whatever it takes to continue to build our operations, our e-commerce, our manufacturing order. Right? So you know, we had a very small team. Myself, I was like doing the operations, the delivery, the pick and pack, and even answering to every Instagram messages or comments that ever comes. You know, I would just like spend every waking hour during lunch or restroom break, just like let me reply to my customers and all that. So that's like I would say the first 2 years of like 2015 to 2016 is really the really startup year. So like super hustling and like, you know, like hold the fort, everyone help each other. You know, like everyone's problem is our problem and just help each other out. Then as we grew the company, so then we were very fortunate. Like we didn't have any LinkedIn presence, like you mentioned just now. I think building a stronger corporate branding really came to be around 2018 until now.
Mm-hmm.
But like 2017 to like 2018, I would say is like our scale up years.
Mm-hmm.
So we, like you mentioned, we grew our headcount, grew our manufacturing team,
Right.
grew our HQ and our overseas office, and so on. But I think we really, you know, continue to instill the same values that we had, and I think it comes back from Irvin and our upbringing, you know, and the values cultivated in us about family. So we still we do that as well in our company. So like for example, in our manufacturing, when we finally built our first big factory in 2017, we really wanted it to be different, not just a normal factory, but to really be a place where people would be happy to work at, you know. So we colored the walls and the rooms and all that with our corporate colors of like yellow, rather than a standard factory color of like grays and so on. So we make it yellows and whites because we really want to build, hey, you know what? IRVINS is all about happiness not only to our customers, but happiness to our family members as well, you know, to all the IRVINS family who joins in our journey. You know, thank you so much for being a part of our journey and contributing, you know, to the growth of the company. And you know, we want to make sure that here, you know what, we're here. Of course, it's business. We're here to contribute to the company, to the brand, to serve our customers. But don't forget as well about personal growth, building a happy culture and building a family culture. Yeah. But of course, now as we grow even more, right? The thing that I'm really enjoying now in the past 1 or 2 years, and I think especially this year as well, is like, okay, how do we continue that family culture and the values we have of integrity, excellence, caring for one another, but also realizing that we are a fast-growing company. We are a global company with operations in 10 markets and so on, right? We need to also be more rigorous in our analysis, be more rigorous in our coordination, our teamwork, our results, our performance. Yeah. So what I'm enjoying now is that part, really, how to synergize the values and the family culture together with performance management, training, developing our managers to become excellent managers in the context of IRVINS, and so on. It's a work in progress, I would say. But yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. I totally agree. I feel like I was really able to connect the dots with, you know, the values that you're incorporating with IRVINS about, you know, family culture. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with Asian Hustle Network First. It's really important for our consumers and customers and members to feel like they're a part of a family, right? And I think that, you know, we see that a lot with IRVINS because, you know, I think IRVINS just blew up in the US, and a lot of people, it kind of felt like people were smuggling chips of IRVINS salted eggs from Asia to the US back to their friends and family. And it was so rare to get your hands on IRVINS before you guys came to the US. So it kind of created like this very like family culture, like, oh, I have IRVINS, I'll share it with you, you know? And on top of that, it's, I think you hit the nail on the head that it's very important, not only the family side and the culture side, but we have to think about how to move forward, right? About performance and training and manager excellence. How are we going to move one step ahead so that we grow together as a company? I think that's really important.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you guys really care about your employees.
Yeah.
I think more so than building a great product is building a great team. Because sometimes a team helps you build a great product. And to be honest, as you're building and scaling a company that's growing so fast like Irvin, you can't be everywhere. You can't do everything. So you need the people to represent you well. And you want people to be able to put in great work when you can't even see them, and that's building the happiness culture that you guys are doing. That's super crucial. There's so many great companies out there that unfortunately have a horrible work culture, but they have a great product. But the trend is like they're not going to maintain that level of excellence forever if your culture is not doing so well.
Right.
That's really a really strong point to emphasize too. And as you were scaling out your company, did you guys bootstrap everything, or did you guys take in investments at a certain point in order to grow quicker?
So it's really totally bootstrap.
Holy moly!
That's why many people saw us as like, wow, this IRVINS is really fast growing, how explosive it is. But to be honest with you, from my perspective, internally, I mean, yes, it was really hectic, but I kind of saw it as a very gradual growth, to be honest with you. I guess if I were to compare to say, if we were to back then raise money, or like other similar startups who generally raise money, right? We probably would have built our factories a lot sooner, because you'd have the money to do that, right? But in our case, we didn't. Maybe I think it's IRVIN's entrepreneurial journey as well, and the struggle he faced through from like 2008 until 2015 in a brutal F&B industry. So I think from there really came that prudence and be careful, be slow and steady. Yeah. So for us, our growth was really, it was just from cash to cash, really. Hey, now we have enough money. Okay, let's open our first proper store in Vivo City Mall. So, and then that worked out. Okay, let's open our second store 9 months later in Westgate Mall in Singapore. And we're just from there, just like, okay, let's we're ready. Let's open another one. Same goes with our factories. At first, all of our like manufacturing or cooking and all that was done in his restaurant, right in the early part of IRVINS in 2014, 2015, and so on. And then we had enough cash flow. So when I jumped in, literally my first assignment, besides running the social media and doing the pick and pack, was, Ircahn, I need you to open our first central kitchen. So that was my first task with my wife, Keisha. We were like, because of her fashion design, she used Photoshop, and then we would just spend the days at the empty site and just like draw out, okay, I think the machine is like 1000 mm by 1000 mm, and then we would like plot out on like Photoshop, build the flow and all that. And then from there, we just like built our our central kitchen team. We hired our first manager, hired our first factory crew, and then okay, you know what? Let's take it at a time, because how we do IRVINS in our snacks is really completely different than how other snacks does it. You know, like typically mass market snacks that you may find and enjoy in you know, in the supermarkets and all that is more of a powder base. So you have like flavorings, right? You have your barbecue flavoring, your chili flavoring, and so that. But for us, it's different. It's a totally novel approach to manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So we legit cook our snacks. So it's not like our snacks are flowing through this automation line from A to Z. You know, from like in comes raw potato and out comes our snacks. No, it's really, yes, there are machines involved, but you have the actual cooking components with our team of chefs and so on. So that complexity and that novel approach is the reason why also we really took our time to build this. You know, even though the demand was really explosive, I think in the early years we practically sell out every 11 a.m. or like latest 1 p.m. So that's why you would always see the queues from like 9 a.m. even though we open at 10. But our customers knew that, you know, IRVINS supply is really limited, you know, and people thought that this was a marketing gimmick. Oh, IRVINS is just limiting your supply. But to be honest with you, I wish we can actually make more snacks. Like I don't want to see our customers lining up.
Right.
I don't want to see them lining up, but then it turns out there's no more snacks and all that, you know, or having to wait 7 days just to buy our snacks.
Right.
But we decided that no, you know, we just want to stay true to our principle, and that is be very gradual in our approach. We figure out this new way of manufacturing. We figure out how to build a team. Okay, now we are ready. We have the cash flow. Let's open our first proper big factory in 2017. Build that. Now we are more experienced. Okay, good. Build our team again. Get used to the new environment of a big factory. Then we build that experience, build that skills, have enough cash flow. Okay, guys, let's build our second factory, which we then open in the December 2018. Yeah. So it's really from there, really just that principle of being gradual, slow and steady.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You know, again, you can see the cultural differences already. I feel like over here, like, all right, guys, let's fundraise 23 million. Let's go for it. Let's go hard. You know, and I love it. I love the fact that you guys hit every single milestone that you guys set for yourselves, you know, before you go for something bigger. Because the worst thing you can do is grow too quickly and become a victim of your own success. You know, and I really love the gradual process behind everything. That's super inspirational for us to hear that you guys are bootstrapped. You know, this was a grind. Because when most people look at a company like yours, they think, oh, okay, they probably raised money or something, or you know, there was no grind involved. But I feel like every company starts with the founders too. Is like you guys dictate the culture for yourself, you know, and the type of experience that you guys bring in to make sure that, you know, it's done gradually. I feel like it's going to be an everlasting company, you know, because everything's done step by step, and I really appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that you guys grinded hard for this
Mhm.
company, and I remember, people were talking about, oh, is this like a marketing strategy that they're just having limited supplies so that, everyone is trying to go find Irvin salted egg snacks. But, just hearing you talk about, you wishing that you can make more snacks, it just goes to show that, you guys are putting a lot of heart into each and every one of these bags. It's just not all processing through machinery. You guys are actually cooking it, which goes to show like there's a lot of love and care and like affection.
I'm gonna go buy 10 bags after the show.
Yeah. And you can alter it and change it if it doesn't taste good, right? So, it just goes to show that there's a lot of affection that goes into making these chips. I would love to know, like, when you guys were expanding into the US market, how were you able to determine, what kind of target audience you guys were trying to go for?
Or was that organic because people started smuggling it in, or what was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. The really fortunate privilege that we have in IRVINS is really the privilege given to us by our customers, really. Over the 5 years, and even when we were selling our snacks, even before the pouches, right, in simple plastic jars with a red cap on top, is a typical Chinese plastic jar for like cookies and all that. We sold those in 2014 in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And we are very fortunate because our customers are so supportive of us, and the word of mouth that they generate in building our community and, loving our dangerously addictive snacks. It's really something that we really appreciate. And that's why from there, I always saw that as, what, we must build intimacy with our customers, and which is why, like I mentioned to you earlier, I made it a point myself. I must, like, no matter how busy I was in those early years, I made it a point to reply and read all of our Instagram and Facebook, because sure, you have a team member who can do customer experience. Of course, you need a specialized role in that. But as a founder, you must always have that intimate relationship and know your customers fully well, right? So because of that habit that I built, because of the team that we have in our customer experience and marketing team, in our approach to learning about our customers. So every week we would meet up with our retail team. Hey, who's your customers in your particular store? And then it's my store. For some reason, it's like Filipinos and customers from Thailand, or example like that. So it's really those insights. Oh, hey, why is it that all of a sudden in 2016, like the whole year, we had so many customers from the Philippines, Then we realized, the reason why is they had this huge word of mouth about us.
Yeah.
And then that translated into them really buying our snacks. And that's why we like, okay, you know what? We have that good growth in our Filipino customers. So then we go to Philippines.
Yeah.
Same goes for every country, really, for where is Thailand or Taiwan or whatever. So then came US, right? So yeah, like again, US is another organic market that we had. There's so many US customers. Maybe like you mentioned, they smuggled back from Singapore, or I think usually what I saw is they will either buy in Singapore and bring home, or they will ask their friends and family to bring back home to the States
Mm-hmm.
to bring back for them. So it was from there that, you know what, okay, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we're an Asian brand, so we have our core customers are really mostly Asian customers.
Mm-hmm.
I also, because of my experience studying in the States for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew what the culture and the environment and the audience is like.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really natural for us to go over and expand to the States finally this year. And we partnered with the right distributors.
Mm-hmm.
We partnered with Bopo Mofo as well.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, one of the founders, just approached us to meet up in Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Irvin, Keisha, and I brought him over for, I think, like, we ate some like seafood specialties in Singapore, and we also ate durian mousse, if I'm not wrong. So like, hey, you never tried this, right? Please try it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met up with Eric and we got to know his his vision and what Bopo Mofo is like and all that, we just saw that as a really good fit for IRVINS as well, in partnering with them for the having IRVINS in Bopo Mofo, and then now they're doing e-commerce as well for us, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, we heard about, your collaboration with Bopo Mofo Cafe. And yeah, it's just crazy how expansive and how much you guys have really blown up in the United States.
It's so organic too.
It is. Yeah.
We love the limited marketing in that sense, and the word of mouth you guys are building, because customer loyalty goes a long way.
Right.
And I do want to focus a little bit more about you. I want to understand like your growth as a person throughout this entire thing. What was your mentality like right when you started grinding it out and working with your brothers, and how much you've grown throughout the years to get to where you are right now?
Well, I feel like, yeah, it like you said, it is a huge grind. I think people who have the mindset of, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur so I can become a boss and sit back and relax, like, no way, man. No way. life as an entrepreneur is 365. When someone is not available to work at the store and you have no one else to depend on, you have to go there. You can't say, I'm the boss, I want to chill at home. No way. And so it is a huge grind. Personally for me, I'm very self-aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and I'm very self-critical as well. And I think for myself, in the first half of the 5 years, I think what I learned is just, because I'm not an entrepreneur like Irvin, I feel like my nature and my mindset is more of a company builder. So I like to build systems, I like to build operations, I like to build culture and teams and that. So I think the first part of my 5 years is really learning how to do that, being very hands-on, because you have no choice. You have to be hands-on because your team is so lean. And I just learned, learn how to lead manufacturing, learn how to lead operations, and so on and so forth. But then when it came to the second part of the 5 years, when we grew even more, built our first and second factory, I I face a lot of challenges, like honestly, you know. It's I think especially in the last 2 years, I learned that, wow, my management approach in the first part cannot work in the second part, because in the second part you have a bigger team. You cannot be too hands-on as a founder and as a COO. Okay, sure, you still need to be hands-on, spend your time with your customers, visit your stores, still read Instagram, still meet your teams and all that. But you cannot be too hands-on, because you need to let go, even though you may have more experience than the new team members, even though you will feel, oh my gosh, if I do this myself, I work day and night, I can get this done. I can get this done better because I already went through it. But I learned that, you have to learn to let go, to empower your team, to let them grow as well. Mistakes will happen, but you also made those mistakes anyways. So learn to let go, have those mistakes happen, build growth in your team, so that you as the COO, as the founder, you can focus on higher macro objectives as well, and so on. Yeah, so I think that's, particular to me. That's why I learned communication as well. In the first half, communication is like we're on one communal table, with like finance is to my left, my brother is to my right, operations is in front of me. You can just shout across the table. But now, no, right? Now it's like we have many rooms, or we have factory over there, HQ over here. So I need to learn as well. You cannot, like, basically you cannot approach management, you cannot approach communications, you cannot approach performance management the way you did back then, and assume that because that's just how things work, that it would apply now, because it doesn't. So like now you have to change. And the next 5 years, we have a forecast and a vision. Okay, this is where IRVINS needs to be in 4 years time. And how do we get there? So again, we have to reformulate. We have to reshape how we think as founders, reshape how we instill excellence in our managers and team members, and continue to find ways, like I mentioned, how to synergize our cultures and values to always be the same, but be able to adapt in the different phase of the company, and take into account that performance management system may change, communications and how you do meetings may change, and so on.
Yeah, that's wow. That's a lot of good points. And the problem with being an entrepreneur is, like, you always want your hands in everything. And because it's actually more detrimental as you scale your team, because your team will be like, oh, why are you not trusting me to do my work? You're not micromanaging, it gets all bad. And it's really good that you mentioned that too. And a lot of us who are in this entrepreneurial journey, it's really hard for us to let go of control. And the ironic thing is, the more you let go of control, the better things will get. Because your team has this trust within your culture, and you, like you said before, can focus on the vision and the macros, how to really grow the company. But it's not an easy process, and I do respect you a lot for that, for saying that. Because we're also facing the same situation. We're up to 28 people now in our team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And for us, we're the same way. It's like, all right, I just have to trust.
It's really easy to kind of like pick your head on every little single team because
Yeah.
you want to see what's going on. But honestly, if we were the ones who were making the calls all the time, we wouldn't be able to, you know, we would only have tunnel vision and we wouldn't be able to see it from a third person's perspective. There could be something that we're missing that your team member would think about, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for entrepreneurs like yourself to think of it from a strategic level and how to get the business to the next level.
And you do hire smart people not to tell them what to do. You hire smart people and have them tell you what to do.
Yes, totally. Yes.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I mean that's a famous Steve Jobs saying, you know, I didn't hire you to tell you what to do. I hired you to tell me what to do.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean we do appreciate your time today and your, you know, all the insights that you had on this podcast. You know.
And I'd love to ask one more question. You know, we always ask our interviewees this question: if you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, and I think it's really interesting to hear it from your perspective, you being in Singapore and in Asia. You know, things might be a little bit different between, you know, Singapore and the United States, but, you know, would love to know, especially from your family, you guys are all entrepreneurs, you and your brothers, and oftentimes Asian parents don't want to see their children become an entrepreneur because they want them to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a pharmacist or something that's very safe. But it seems like your father obviously went through the entrepreneurial route and he is very proud of you guys to be an entrepreneur as well. So we'd love to hear from your perspective on, you know, like what advice you have for aspiring entrepreneurs.
I guess my advice would probably be colored by today's climate as well, right? With all this COVID-19 that's going on. You know, I think, you know, for the next, I don't know, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, things have changed and probably things will continue to be in this way. We may have to learn to adapt ourselves, be it our personal lives or our work life or in companies in this new operating environment. So I think I would say, like, first of all, ideas are not unique, you know. Execution matters more. So I think people always have the mentality, you know, I want to hide my idea because it's so sacred, but then you won't ever do it, you know. Or then maybe you have an idea and you share it with your friends and family. Well, hopefully they're honest enough with you, but usually friends and family will never tell you no, right? They will like, oh, you know, it's okay, it's a good idea, you should do it.
Yeah.
So you don't have enough data to prove your idea. So I think the only way to prove your idea is to really just do it, you know. And I think in this new environment that we live in, doing that idea, I think, has to mean being as, you know, prudent as possible, and experimenting with it with you know, as much as you can, mitigating your risk. So, like, you know, if you have an F&B idea, you know, I don't think your first jump to be an F&B entrepreneur is suddenly your mind is like, hey, you know, I want to build a large restaurant. Well, how do you know you have a product market fit, right? You haven't even tested your food, whether it works or not. So, you know, I would say really, you know, just if you have an idea, you really believe in it, you share that idea with people, hopefully more than just your friends and family, but you share that with actual potential customers, and they give good feedback and they want to buy it. Then your next step is really to just go and do it, right? And to do it at a small scale that is low risk and fast. You like don't have the mindset, of building a restaurant that's going to take you 6 months to build, just get started by next week, right? Think of a way to test your food through online delivery or whatever, as in whatever startup mentality works, and just do it, and see whether there's product market fit or not, right? Many people would also say, hey, if your idea fails when you try it, you should just pivot, right? And like just scrap that idea, pivot, or fail, scrap again, pivot. But I mean, I guess that works at times, but as you see from our experience, our pivots is like, after a long grind where Irvin never gave up, always believing in his passion for F&B, and being stuck at the corner where he has to do something to really push the boundaries and revenue of his restaurant. And that's why he decided to experiment on his salty egg dishes. And finally, after 7 years, that's why he saw his customers suddenly being so attached to those dishes that finally it became snacks. So sometimes in life, I feel it could be pivots, yes, but sometimes in life it can also be a grind that you persist and you continue to innovate and think of ways to grow or survive your business. And somehow, once you see that product market fit, once you observe that behavior of your customers, oh, this works. So then you realize, and then you go and focus on that.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's really, really good, solid advice, and I hope our listeners can listen to this advice twice. just bring me back to that point where he shared your insight. But it's really good, really great having you in the show. And we do want to shout out too, congratulations on your future, on your kid next week, So
Thank you.
I'm gonna say congratulations, and it's gonna be very exciting to be a first-time parent.
Yeah. It's I think this might be the most difficult but the most rewarding next chapter yet.
Yeah, we're super happy, and we'll probably look out on social media about how that story unfolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. We truly appreciate it, and we had such a great time talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah. How can our listeners hear more about you on social media or anywhere?
Sure. Yeah. So IRVINS, we have a USA IG account. It's irvinsaltegg.usa. And we also have like I mentioned just now, right? We have our various partners. We have our snacks in various offline channels. Your H Marts, your 99 Ranches. We have our Bopo Mofo partner as well. With, e-commerce and so on and so forth. So definitely, I hope we can continue to grow our distribution and sales points in the US. And hopefully we can bring more and more new snacks to serve our US customers. So definitely stay tuned to our Instagram for future updates and all that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very exciting news. We will leave all of those links in the show notes for this podcast. But thank you so much, Ircahn. It was so wonderful to talk to you today about your story.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the show.
We would like to get to the top 10 on iTunes, so be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We release an episode every single Wednesday, so stay tuned.
Thank you guys so much.